Hi, I'm Wish.com Jeff Gonzalez, and today we're going to be talking about drawing a gun from under a sports jacket. I couldn't resist. Jeff is one of the few guys I've seen that can pull off a sport coat in lighter wash denim, and it actually looks real solid on him. So I thought it was clever. You probably don't, but whatever. Anyways, let's jump into it. As I just mentioned, what I'm going to be talking about today is a couple weeks back, I spent some time at the range, and what I was doing was on the shot timer, testing to see my draw to first shot at 7 yards on a B8 repair center, and I wanted to see what the measurable difference was between an untucked shirt, a shirt that was tucked in, and then a shirt that was tucked in with a sport coat, because for me, I prefer consistency whenever possible. And so even if I am wearing a cover garment, so to speak, I still prefer to run my Glock 19 and my Enigma as opposed to switching out and going to something behind the hip outside the waist. I'm probably going to bring that into the equation too, again, just to see what the timer says. But when I was doing that, I made some interesting discoveries. I'm going to talk about the actual comparison times next week, but I figured now would be a good time to sort of, why am I wearing this wrinkled, baggy crap when, last week I was in a fairly well-fitting suit? Well, the answer is this is my training gear. This is what I actually will go to the range in, because I'm okay if this stuff gets stained or torn or, whatever else. And so I went out and I came to a couple of realizations. Number one, it's not super easy to tell because I got the jacket on, but this shirt is easily a size too big on me, if not two. There is a ton of excess fabric in this. This is one of the reasons why clothing fit is so critical, especially when you're talking about making sure that it's interacting properly with your carry gear. I ran into a couple of different problems. The first one is when it's untucked, this shirt rides so low. I mean, it's literally almost halfway down my calf or my hamstring and my thigh. So when I went to go clear the shirt, the bottom hem of it in the back was hanging up under my ass. I'll show you a picture of what I'm talking about. To where it was preventing me from getting the proper clearance, even without the jacket. So that's number one. Secondly, once I started kind of gaming that and bunching up the back hem to just kind of sit right below my belt line, when there's so much excess material, where you grab on the shirt suddenly starts to matter a bunch. What I was finding was I had to grab the hem of the shirt. I wasn't able to kind of grab at the navel and just pull up because there was so much extra fabric hanging down that I still couldn't get at the gun. And with something like this, I was having to grab all the way across my body over where the gun is, as opposed to just being able to kind of snatch up from the center line. All those things because there's just too much extra fabric in this that I'm having to swim through to get at my gun. The other big element, and I actually discovered this one a couple years back, but I was confirming it when I was at this last range trip. Even running appendix, the draw stroke for me, if I'm wearing a jacket, is still whipping this back with the support hand or with the strong hand before I clear the garment to bring the pistol out. And the reason for that is because if I just grab the shirt, you can see the jacket still hanging in the way, and it's entirely possible to have this happen, which is no bueno. So I had something similar actually take place when I was at the range. And so that's one of the reasons why at least for the time being. I'm still flushing the ideas out, and I think I'm going to have the opportunity here in the not too distant future to actually try it out in a class. But that's why if I'm wearing a jacket, typically, even if I am running my Enigma, I will generally still opt for a pocket gun, my little 32 in this front hip pocket, because while it is unarguably a less effective option, I'm able to bring it into play much faster. And so, people are going to say, well, why don't you just switch to an outside the waistband holster for when you do that? Yeah, I could. I probably ought to play with that more, to be perfectly honest. I know that's what Mike Green talked about in his covert carry class. It could be me just being stubborn to a degree, because I've just been team appendix for so long that I've kind of ignored carrying at or behind the hip. The only thing that I'm a bit resistant of is my concern is that I would have to get jackets re-tailored to accommodate for the gun. And that's not necessarily something that I'm too keen on doing. I'm not a big fan of tailoring clothing specifically to accommodate firearms if it can be avoided. Just because at that point then, it's either going to fit when you wear the gun and be too loose when you're not, or vice versa. So that's pure conjecture, by the way. I don't have anything to back that up yet. So just wanted to kind of to touch on that a little bit, where regardless of where you're carrying your gun, if you are wearing a jacket or a vest, and even if it's not from an aesthetic standpoint, even if it is something as simple as, you live in parts of the country where the sun's not trying to kill you 8 months out of the year, and additional layers for warmth are appropriate. If you're wearing open front, regardless of where the gun is, you're going to want to sweep that out of the way first before you actually go for the pistol. Otherwise, you've got a very good chance of grabbing a fistful of fabric. Wanted to share that with you, and aside from that, I hope everybody has a great week. We've got some really cool stuff going on in the Patreon, as well as Bespoke Solutions, the Facebook group. So if you haven't joined that yet, please by all means do. I've still got some stickers available as well, so I've got the link for that down below. Aside from that, everybody stay safe and stay sharp.